So I like how he's been ripping into like Biden and talking about some of our
His
political
sense of humor,
troubles right
bro.
now.
His sense of humor. He goes, I must be missing some part of the magic because he's the most voted for president. More than Barack Obama. He gave credit to Obama where Obama deserves credit too. Where he's a fantastic orator. He's very good at communicating the vision that he wanted for the country. I was in the fourth grade when he got elected, but Obama is do some credit, but it also his philosophically, politically, like I don't align with his vision.
Yeah, and here's the thing, exactly how you said. Since we were in fourth grade, we really don't know because when I
Right.
look back on that time, I'm like, oh, like life was great, and I thought he was a good president. And then some little research I've done, I'm not an expert on like Obama, but like I'm like, all right, he did make some questionable decisions, you know?
Yeah. You can tell though. Andrew Tate when he gets asked questions about American politics, like he really doesn't care.
Right, right.
That's like a he's because like it's all one this state of American politics and this 2023 2022 is in my opinion a joke or
Yeah,
something close to that.
and he's wealthy, and like how he alluded to, when you're wealthy, like race doesn't matter.
Exactly. I kind of thought about that though. I was like, I wonder if there's like some like dude who is like a millionaire or something who's like woke and like shoves it in people. You probably meet some of them in New York City, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean,
And
it was funny. That brought out his sense of humor when he was talking about the most voted for president.
Yeah, and again, his sense of humor. I like when he alluded to. He was talking about some revolution that happened in Myanmar, something like that, and
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
like, they use the same voting machines as He didn't say it, but you know what he meant, and like Tucker was very big into that as well. Like he was saying that our election was rigged.
All right, so we talked about this before. We're going to jump topics. Still, I'm talking about the podcast or the interview that Tucker Carlson just had with Andrew Tate. They talked a lot about in the beginning how let's just for the sake of simplicity use the term financial success despite, and we were kind of talking about this earlier, despite where you start at. I mean, I might have told you this, but it's like no matter what position you're in, someone in a worse position has done it better. So it's not like you can blame it on where you started all you want, but complaining about it's not going to help. Sure, you have zero control. Who is it? Pascal, Blaise Pascal, that French genius, goes. There's a thrownness to our existence. We don't choose the circumstances under which we exist. But
Right. And so when he said that thing that was like either you can choose to stand up for something and fight, or you can choose to fight in your own head. That really spoke to me, because then he's alluding to trying to be the most honorable person that you can be. And also about the whole like where you start from. Like I may just be biased, but that speaks to me as well because as someone that's a minority and I'm supposed to feel oppressed, I'm supposed to like be a victim. I've tried to take the approach to life that like it's like no, I actually have a lot of things going for my favor. Like I was born in America, I speak English, I got an education.
dude, and it's so when I was younger, like let's say like senior in high school, like 5-6 years ago, I was more economically, politically inclined to say it would be beneficial to help people. I'm still this way though. To help people who are like low low income, and that's one of the polls why I'm involved in this one charity I'm involved in. But anyways,
Wait, you're
like to
involved in
help.
charity?
Yeah, we'll talk about it offline.
All right.
But
Well, here's something about that, about helping people rise from lower economic means. I think it's Peterson that said there's actually a ethical and environmental argument to be made for that, because when you bring people out of poverty, then they need to use less fossil fuels and they produce less waste.
Really, when
Yeah.
they're so bringing people out of poverty puts
Hmm.
them in an economic position where they're less likely to contribute to the carbon concentration in the atmosphere. Ha!
Yes.
Two stones with one bird.
Hmm.
Oh
And
no.
but then like
Yeah,
on the
go ahead.
flip side, so and like people in our situation that live in such abundance, I think that on the flip side, it gets to a point when there's too much abundance and then there's waste. But I think in general, yeah, if you bring people out of poverty, it helps the environment.
Huh, that's an interest. I didn't know. I made a vaguely remember Peterson talking about that. Like, do you think that really helps people, or is character destiny? You know what I'm saying? Like, no matter where you start, if you were destined to like be a billionaire, you're gonna be it anyways, no matter where you start, or is it like, all right, your trust fund, so you're more likely to be one, or what? Because the older I get, and the more quote wisdom, even though I'm an idiot, quote wisdom I accumulate, I would say it's like it's more. I see evidence more for character as the driving force more than where you start.
So you know me, I'm going to give a Aristotelian answer. I do agree with you that a lot of it is character and destiny, but then just thinking off the top of my head right now, I think sometimes people are just born into very terrible situations. Like imagine you're like one of six siblings, and then you get orphaned, like your parents die, and so then you have to take up as head of the family and work and stuff, and you might not be able to go to school. But then like how we're saying, like that might form a strong character. you
That's
know
fact, dude. It will build traits within an individual. You know.
but
Yeah.
I'm a bit afraid to commit fully to the character thing, because then it just might be like the depression
Dude,
thing.
same,
It's
same.
it's scary to commit to
Yeah.
one thing.
Yeah, and it's like we are extremely blessed to be able to. You're in a nice apartment right now. I'm in a nice apartment right now. We're talking into like $300 microphones. I got like a couple $1,000 laptop. I'm talking my phones right here, dude. It's like we got like mad like valuables, whatever you want, around us right now, and we're talking about
Hmm.
like, oh, people come from bad backgrounds and like they can still do it. Like we're
Hmm.
so blessed to be able to talk about it from like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think poverty does just bring some things. Like I think there's a shame when you're poor. Like you just feel like an
Yeah,
internal sense of like
yeah,
shame and guilt, and then I think you're just also more prone to drugs and violence
yeah,
and maybe some gang behavior.
yeah,
But again, I'm not an expert, so I don't know.
dude. And it's like, okay, I'll ask you this question, a personal question. Your cousin Eric, absolute gangster. If he were to stay in Colombia, would it have been worse for him?
I think opportunity wise, yes,
Opportunity,
just
yeah.
because.
Opportunity wise is what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. So then yes,
Yeah, because
because
dude,
like
he's like, yeah, I'm driving Uber in a flood in Miami at 2 in the morning, bro. He's like, it's like it's happening regardless.
mhm.
Dude's working, you know.
Yeah. And so, like, whatever wage he's making doing that is going to be so much better than most professions in Colombia, anyways, just
Yeah,
because
bro sent it,
inflation.
dude. He sent it, you
Yeah.
know, and like,
And like, that's what we forget is like, even though our economy has stagnated a bit compared to the rest of the world, and still an amazing economy.
yeah, and, it's like I actually having this conversation right now is like, well, of course, I'm a fan of Miami, of the city, and the the University of Miami, there's a large demographic of students who go there whose parents have paid for their school. Their parents have multiple houses, potentially in multiple countries. They got boats. What are the parents, like I said, pay for their school? They're going on their like trips to freaking Greece or Italy over the summer, and I'm like, dang, that must be nice. But I had it extremely nice too, right?
Hmm.
It's it's easy relative to compare. And bringing it back to Andrew Tate, no one is ever talking about how he came from one of the highest crime rate cities in all of Britain,
Mm-hmm.
Luton, and like quote poor beginnings,
Right. Right.
his father was a well, apparently he was not a grandmaster. He was apparently an international master. I don't know anything about chess. I don't play the game, but still, like he was a proficient chess player. Like I don't think there's a ton of money unless you're like in the top 5 in the world at chess or like doing the YouTube thing. Which honestly, for chess and all like niche sports, competition kind of thing, good thing for social media, the ability to market that. But it's like there's not a ton of money in that. He just didn't come from a wealthy upbringing. Unless maybe some information will be released in the future. It says, oh, he had like secret million, whatever, given to him.
I don't think so because they would have found it in this investigation. Especially since they're trying to smear his name. But all right, so here's the thing: him being in poverty, right? And so I think one of the keys is networking, right, and having a strong team. And so he's also very fortunate that he has his brother, because they're like the
That's his
dynamic
thing,
duo.
dude. That's his. That's really one of the power sources for him. It seems is Tristan. He certainly. This is my estimation. Is he certainly will not be the man that he has made himself to be without Tristan.
Yeah.
What's the literary element called? It's a foil.
Mm-hmm.
Tristan is his foil because if you look here in his interview with Patrick Bet David, he talks about how Tristan was always in like a good mood about staying
Right.
in the Romanian prison, only because he knew that Andrew was working on the way to get out. Because they complement. That's complement with an E. They complement each other well, energetically, like the Tao.
Isn't that so interesting? That is so fascinating. That it's like, like he just feels like he can do anything, because he has his brother. It's like because there's almost an expectation that he has to figure it out.
Right. It's up here too. It's not a tangible thing. It's not that his brother is secretly a robot that shoots out $100 of cash from his mouth. It's here to action. It's in the brain. It's the mindset to action, and that's why it gets thrown around a lot. But mindset is the most important asset that men and women can have.
Right.
And his it seems that his brother cultivates a certain mindset from him, and vice versa.
Right.
He said something. He said something interesting. So apparently, Tristan was the guy when they were both kickboxers. Tristan was the guy who would take 6 punches, but he would punch you 7 times, and that 7th punch would put you out. But Tate was more like a sniper, and he would evade and snipe. It's interesting because he you see that almost in his personality. I mean, you see that in sports across the board, per people's personalities manifesting in the game they play.
Mm-hmm.
But he Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate. Andrew was the superior kickboxer, though, and you see, it's funny because people ask Tristan like who would win in a fight, and it would be Tristan was like, yeah, it would be Andrew, even though there's a size differential because Tristan's a larger dude.
Mm. And I'm not even sure how many people know this either, but they both talked about how Tristan sacrificed his career to get a job, so Andrew could keep on fighting. Like, that's real sacrifice.
It's crazy because he knew at the time there's no money in kickboxing. There's no like if you want to make money fighting, it seems impossible. Boxing is probably the harder. I mean, I don't know though. It's harder in different ways. MMA hard because to get noticed is the issue, but since there's many facets to the sport, you can become good in one area and perform well. But in boxing is more political, but there's more money throughout the professional like the professional like leagues. And it's interesting too. If you watch how Andrew Tate interacts with people, he shows the most respect to fighters.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen him show the most respect to fighters. He'll be talking to like very like high value individuals on their podcast or whatever, but he shows the most respect to fighters. You can just watch his interactions with Sean O'Malley.
Right.
Because he understands how the training goes, how the weight cuts go, how your mind needs to be, and it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly not fun. He's quoted one of my most. I guess I could use the word favorite quote. He has said is that he hates training and he hates fighting. It's like he feels obligated to do this. The alternative is worse. I hate training too. I dread it. It's like terrible. But the alternative is worse. Like, okay, this will go on. We were at the Club Nebula, right? That one night, and I brought someone. I don't know if you saw. I think you saw. Liam saw, but like the situation that unfolded.
What unfolded?
I can't say names on the podcast. I'm not going to say names. I can say them, but I won't. But a certain situation unfolded in the club, and I'm like, I would not have acted the way I did if I did not have the confidence in my physical ability due to the fact that I'm putting in 4 to 5 training sessions a week. And then, okay, yeah, we can go out to the club and I'll be in a certain position and I'll be okay with that because I have confidence in that, and Tate, you see Tate respect that fighting a lot because it's a form of truth.
Yeah. And you said that fighting is the most respected sport.
Well, it's like the most fundamental, He said, you play a game of basketball with someone, they beat you in basketball. You say, you might beat me in basketball, but I could beat you in a fight. No one loses in a fight and then says, but I could beat you in basketball. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Here, I'll check my notes because there was another one. I think we should do some.
Honestly, we could cut it here.
I want to ask this question first. And then we'll cut it. The estrogenization of Western culture. I think he's just delivering this message to a bunch of people whose endocrine systems are, for men, suppressed, but there's this underlying yearning to want to accept his message, but because of what I will call environmental contaminants, it's hard,
So here's the thing. I think it's Rogan that and Rogan stole it from someone else when he said most men live a life of quiet desperation. And so when I heard that, I started like thinking about some people I know and like people around me. And so I've just noticed like some people that I no longer associate with, that there just seems to be a lot of envy and jealousy. And I never really understood why. And so I like thought about it. And then I guess it's, just might be some envy from like my life and like things that I have, but it's like, I wouldn't have those things if I wasn't willing to risk it, and it's like, you only take risk if you have certain level of testosterone,
it's the risk taking hormone, shout out Andrew Huberman, neurobiologist out of Stanford in California. He talks about that, how testosterone is linked with risk taking behaviors, high reward, but a high potential for negative consequence. It's interesting because I'm we're gonna a little bit into endocrinology here. There is a interesting interplay between testosterone, dihydrotestosterone (DHT), and estrogen in the development of the male brain. And you don't want low levels of or mismatched, is a better term, levels of any of those three for development as far as risk taking and ambition are concerned. The which specific facets of ambition are driven by each of those hormones. I'm not aware of. It'd be interesting to look into if that knowledge is even available. But it's not just testosterone.
Do you want to explain some of those hormones, in case somebody listens in the future?
I don't want to say anything incorrect, but what I will say is that estrogen is neuroprotective, and I think this has to do with, I could be wrong here, but estrogen's relationship to the myelin sheath, because estrogen and lipid. I don't know if it's called proliferation. It might be. No, it's not proliferation. Lipid synthesis for the myelin, because the myelin sheath is insulation. It's thermally. It's a thermal insulator, allows the ions to move in like an isolated, quick fashion. So estrogen is neuroprotective in that manner. Testosterone, I think, is associated with the development of associating dopamine with reward in a certain manner that would be psychologically classified as masculine. And then DHT is associated with like what I would consider puberty-like sexual assertiveness. That development. I could be wrong, and whether or not there's research out there to support that, but that is what I'm currently aware of, the relationship between those three hormones and development. But it seems like what's happening is that there's an increase in estrogen environmentally through whatever you want to call it. There's so many of them, and I was actually just having a conversation with someone about the particulars, but we'll just call them like contaminants that, or like phytoestrogens, whatever you want to call, are in drinking water, etc., plastic water bottles leaching into water, that kind of stuff. But
was the word you were looking for earlier called lipogenesis?
I'm not sure, because it's in the context of the myelin sheath. I don't know if in neurology there's a different term because of the dedication. We're going kind of deep into cell physiology here, but
so here's two things I want to bring up about what scares me. So have you seen Dr. I just forget her name. It's Rhonda
Patrick, the fish oil lady.
It's not her. It's the old
one.
I
know what you're talking about, bro. Yeah.
It sounds like shawarma or something. I don't know. I don't want to disrespect her.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I just messed that up.
I know.
Bro, she's she's
sorry,
the intermittent
doctor.
Fasting. Yeah, sorry.
Well, when she talks about how she did this study and how over the years, the taint in the chimps that she's looked at have gotten smaller and smaller, and how that's correlated to less testosterone.
Yeah, that's interesting. Your mic might be messing up. This is it. Because I just checked it. Like the level isn't matching. We'll find out in a bit. But okay. I wonder what that correlation is. It might have to do when I hear about phenotypic dimensions and metrics. I think RNA localizations and morphogens, which is probably the explanation, and whether or not the accuracy of that or the correlation between that, how 1-to-1 it is without any confounding intermediates. You're looking her up?
Yes.
I should check this microphone thing up. But no, that's just it. Oh, do you want to end it here? We literally went from Andrew Tate talking about ambition and success to like how the endocrine system plays into it, and like just culture now is like kind of androgenically suppressed.
Here, we'll end it after this. It's just I
Okay.
just want to say two things because we already started it.
Yeah.
So her name is Dr. Shana Swan. It's a bit of a tongue twister. And so she has been studying reproductive health and neurodevelopment. And so since 1998, she's conducted multiple pregnancy center cohort studies with more than 1,500 mothers and children, right? And so she specifically looked at a lot of the environmental factors you're talking about. But there's a specific one where it's like phthalates. There we go, phthalates, right?
Yeah,
and the phthalates
right.
are causing just a decrease in testosterone every generation. And so she's saying that with every generation of men that are born, it's being decreased by half.
That's a dude.
And so the other thing I just wanted to say real quick was not, not to bring up, someone that may not be you in well esteemed in society, but Alex Jones talked about is it the atrazine? It's called in the water,
I have
and
no idea.
everybody thought he was silly because they just clipped when he started making the frogs gay.
They're making that, dude. Yeah.
But then,
dude, people meme him, try to like make him funny. He's just like,
who's talked about it recently is RFK. RFK was talking about how he was like he had some lawsuits going on about that, about like stuff in the water, and again, it's endocrine disruptor.
Half is a lot, and testosterone is extremely significant to psychological development. It's easy now. It's easy to
off pod. I'll tell you a little conspiracy I have about that.
Yeah. All right. Let's end this and allow this video or this recording to render or whatever it does. The magic of the software. Oh wait.